in something negative or something bad happening? Why, for me to experience good, am I thinking and operating as if bad is to come? Or just standing in a feeling of happiness? Why do I want to say this? Why do I want to act this way? Why am I thinking this way while in the moment of being happy? Self-aware. We don't ask these questions. And because we're not asking these questions, we're not moving in a very intentional way in life. And it's hurting us and it's damaging us. Because by us not doing that, we're not connecting with others in a very intentional way, because we're not connected with ourselves in an intentional way. I wish I had time. The reason why hurt people is because I would even dare to say 80% to 90% of the time, that hurt person doesn't deal with their hurt. And because they don't deal with their hurt, they end up hurting someone else. I touch on so many different angles and topics because I am compelled to believe that there's someone out there that needs to hear that portion. Someone out there that haven't reached out or connected to someone in a way that can be relatable. And so that's why I touch on these things. Self-aware is also knowing the impressions that are placed on ourselves by experiences and connections with others. Self-aware. I do this because I've been around this person so long. I do this because I've been in this experience so long. Self-aware. And the more you're self-aware, the more you become effective to be in interpersonal communication with others. If you walk through life and you believe impressions are not laid in your soul, you're fooling yourself. You're fooling yourself. There are impressions that you have, both good and bad, that shape you. And sometimes you don't see those impressions until you become self-aware. It's amazing how 6 kids can grow up in the same environment, in the same neighborhood, in the same household, under the same parents, and have different impressions. It's freaking amazing. And to be honest, you can even control, to a certain degree, who you allow to lay an impression on your soul. Through the benefits of certain behaviors that other people display, you are compelled to allow them to lay an impression on you. And that's, for example, if you see a certain person operating or seeing things that are beneficial, that you have seen as beneficial, It could be socially. It could be successfully. It could be family-wise. The benefits you've seen from their behavior has left an impression on you. And that's what I mean by leaving that impression in your soul. Self-awareness. Why? It's answering the why and stepping out of you and whatever you're thinking, going through, or where you're at in life, and answering the why. In this part of interpersonal communication, Seauton. Now I added the C, and there ain't no C in there. I just like how it rolls off my tongue. But Seauton, know thyself. We're going to just talk about self-awareness today. It's knowing yourself as if, say, a painter literally took white paint or red paint and just drew it in between both of your eyes, down your nose, while you asleep. And it dried. And you get up and you look in the mirror and you notice that it's there. Being self-aware, knowing the intricate parts of you and why you do what you do. And so just like that red line or that white line in between your eyes, you're aware that it exists. And you become aware of why you operate and say the things you say. Being self-aware, let me add, it can be uncomfortable. Some people become self-aware through prayer. When you lay down all the ugly sides of you and why you do what you do in prayer, it becomes uncomfortable because you have to be honest. And in that honesty, you learn to not like every aspect of you, but you become self-aware. You become self-aware. So even through prayer, you can learn yourself by laying down all that you're not and all that you are, and dealing with it and saying, this is me. Part of self-awareness is social comparison. It's the part where you observe and assign meaning to other people's behavior and then compare it against your own. Let me say that again. It's analyzing, assessing others' behaviors and then taking the time to compare their behavior against yours. Social comparison. That's what it is. You become self-aware. And this can turn into a positive and a negative. And the more positive it is, the more beneficial it becomes when connecting to people interpersonally. And you'll see why I say that. there are people that you'll look at and you'll analyze and assess their behavior, their actions, their words, their responses. You'll admire what they do, say, or think. And the highest flattery of admiration is emulation, emulating exactly what they do. And that's the positive way of social comparison. Well, they do that. I could do that too. Or if they do that, if I incorporate that, I would be just as successful. Social comparison. I actually did it this morning. I just thought, if I wake up goal-oriented and successful as this person I admire, I'll get the results that they got. I just was confident as I slid off the bed. I was just confident in thinking and knowing it. And then I went on with my day. And I would guarantee to say that was the fuel that kept me doing what I was doing throughout the day. That social comparison. And then me taking in the positive energy is only loving up on myself. And so, as a side note, you can't experience or give love unless you love self. And that starts with what your thoughts is about self. Being self-aware. Your thoughts is your actions, your words. What do you convey to you? And I'm kind of diving into self-esteem. However, it's necessary to say this because you have to step out of you and see the why. Now, another part of that is critical self-reflection and social comparison. And out of critical self-reflection can come negative thoughts. Because when we think of critical, we think of running through things with a fine-tooth comb. And automatically, we are more compelled to lean towards the negative than the positive if we're critically thinking. But I want to challenge you and inspire you to start running through things with a fine-tooth comb and ending out on a positive. Because when you end out on a negative, how you deal with yourself when you critically are self-reflecting is how you deal with others. When you're so harsh on yourself, you can't even fault how you operate in your relationships, your friendships, and your family connections. Because you're critical on yourself. And even that criticalness being negative affects your perspective with God. So now you believe out of your self-awareness and coming down on yourself all the time, you believe even God does that to you. But let's flip that. What if